Hello, everyone. Hello, my conscious fashion friends. Thank you for joining today. I am in my backyard taking advantage of being outside in this amazing weather here in Portland, Oregon. If you are following along, we are working through the Conscious Fashion Design Mini-Playbook. This is a condensed version of the entire design and development process from concept to consumer, going to market. And thank you for being here today and for this opportunity for me to get in front of you, because I love doing this and enjoy working with entrepreneurs and fashion industry pros. So please share with me any comments you have, things you're looking for, things you're struggling with. That's all part of this process, is to be a support system for you. So if you have been following along, we are moving on to phase 4 of the design and development process. And as I mentioned, it's a mini version, right? Like, it's so much more in depth than what I could do here in these mini sessions, but this is giving you an overview and some essential steps that you have to take along the way of creating products. So we are about halfway through, and we're today starting phase 4. So phase 4 is the product development phase. And I did a quick inquiry online to ask. I love ChatGPT, and I've been using Perplexity a lot these days too. Just asking questions and getting more of a deep dive into specifics of people's roles within the design and development process. And so, what is product development? And so I did a search, and this is what the reply I got, which I think was spot on, and I wanted to share with you in case you're not familiar with a product development role within the industry and what all is included in that job responsibility. And of course, it's going to vary by company and the size of the company. If you're a small startup brand, you might have one person that's doing sourcing and developing and multiple responsibilities just to cover more of the tasks that need to be done. If you're working corporately, you most likely have a specific product developer that you're working with. And in some cases, like, Nike, for example, you're going to have a team, each one taking on a different specific part of that process. So what is included in product development stage of the design process? Well, there's design concept finalization. You're taking that initial creative idea and sketches and developing it into a final product. And that could include what we covered before, like doing your market research, your color story, your fabrics, all of those things. You're taking your design concept and finalizing it. No more changes. There's always multiple changes along the way as you develop product. But this is where, when you're starting to work with a developer, you have your design nailed down, and it might be 99%. You might have to tweak something once you do a prototype, but when you're passing it on to the developer, it needs to be as dialed in as possible, because part of product development is also that technical spec preparation. And so that requires creating a detailed tech packs, which covers all the technical aspects of that garment, such as the measurements, construction notes, seam lines, materials, color options. The tech pack usually includes, or should include, a bill of materials. So you've got your fabric listed, your trims listed, all of those things are in that tech pack. And this goes on to the pattern maker and prototype creation. So you're passing on your tech pack now to a pattern maker. You'll sit and review with them. They will start preparing patterns based on your tech pack. And that is all part of the product development process. Also included is material sourcing and testing. So you have most likely chosen the fabric that you want when you're creating your design, because you need to know what is it stretch? Is it woven? Is it, printed? Is it, what is it? You need to know that when you're designing. So you've most likely should have already done that part of it, but now you've got to source it. So the product developer may work with a sourcing person or may work directly with suppliers, but you're going to finalize, or you're going to source your materials to get it down to that final fabric that you want to choose for production. The fabric has to be tested. And if you're a brand who does wholesale or selling to retailers, you should have a testing process in place that might require you to go to a third-party testing facility, which will have a cost to it. If you're an independent designer making one-offs or just small runs of your own, you don't have to worry so much about that, but I still encourage you to find out about the material. Maybe you're just hand washing it yourself in the washing and your washer and dryer to see, does it shrink? Is it fade over time? You really want to test those materials to make sure that when you do start selling it and getting it out there in the world, that it's not immediately fading, shrinking, falling apart, raveling, fraying, whatever it may be. So very important to have that done. Sampling. So you have your prototype, it'll go into sampling, which leads to fit sessions, which leads to pattern updates, corrections, what needs to be changed, what's not working. And this will also include costing. So once you get your samples in work, the maker will be able to start talking to you about costing. And a good factory will also share with you, or you can inquire if they suggest some type of production, specific construction methods based on what would be most efficient, what would be the least amount of waste, what would be the best use of all the fabric that you're using, a fabric usage, leading to less waste, zero waste, hopefully as close as possible. They may have a construction idea. Say you have a pocket on a blazer and you designed it a certain way, they may be able to come back to you and say, hey, for production, we really recommend doing this method because it'll be more efficient, it'll be save you money, it'll reduce production time, things like that. So be open and willing to work with your maker, and then you adjust your sketch or your pattern accordingly. So that's a very normal part of the process, and it's you doing your due diligence to make sure that you are being the most efficient. So your manufacturing partner, if they're a good partner, will work with you on that, and you can collaborate together to come up with what's going to be the most beneficial for both sides. And then once you get to your fit approval garment, you approve it and you go into manufacturing. You place your order and you go into that final stage of manufacturing. So that's an overview of what product development is. And so let's see, I'm going to share my screen next. And this has happened a couple times where I've got this really wonky, I think it's my computer. I've got a technical issue here, as you can see. Well, I'll just hold this up. So within your workbook, there are several worksheets on the product development phase. There's quite a few steps in this section, and I'm not going to take 1 week to do each one. I'll just kind of cover a few so it's get through it a little bit quicker. But you have some homework, and hopefully you've done your homework in the workbook up to where we are now. And if not, go back and do those. And when you're ready, you can move on to this one. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 action step pages in your workbook that are in the product development section. And some things that you need to cover or you need to learn is included in here. So the first page is sustainable sourcing. So how we talked about which materials you're going to use. The action steps are to research 2 to 3 sustainable fabric suppliers and create a list, like your wish list. What is your wish list for sustainability aspects in the material that you choose. If you kind of give yourself an outline or requirements that you're setting for yourself, then when you're reaching out to suppliers, you can be more specific of, I want organic cotton, or I want, a percentage of this and a percentage of that. I'm looking for what, this specific thing and what's important to you to include in the sustainability side of the materials. Are they, do you want got certified or some other certification? And then that will help you narrow down your search for materials, because you can search by who's got the certification, who's organic cotton, who are those suppliers. So do some Google searching, use the IFD Insider platform. There's some resources in there. We've got a course available specifically for sourcing ethical makers, which is your page 2 of this phase 4 product development section. And it's research ethical manufacturing. And again, you could have a list of your requirements. Why do you want, what are you looking for with those ethical makers, and do some research. And the course that we do have, it's sourcing ethical makers. It's with Emma Bottomley, and you'll see that in the education part of our Inside Fashion Design website. That's a fantastic one, and she really shares how to communicate with people overseas, because English is not going to be their first language, and they're maybe a small artisan group. So there's very specific ways to communicate properly with them. And so I highly encourage checking out that course. She's fantastic, and she works with ethical makers across the globe. So then timelines. The other one is timelines. So within this section of the course, you will find a link to a product development calendar. And there's factors involved in that. Is it domestic? Is it overseas? Are you doing it yourself, or do you have a team? All of those things factor into your timeline. If you're making one-offs or you're sewing your own inventory, your timeline is what you want your timeline to be. But what I find is that having that list of deliverables and tasks that you need to meet in the process is super helpful and will keep you on track. And you'll know that, if you want things in your store by September for fall, you can work backwards and allow enough time for you to personally achieve all of those steps, or working with your manufacturer. And again, if you're domestic, it's completely different timeline than overseas. If you're working at a corporate company, I'm sure you have a development calendar that you work with your product developer, or maybe you have an internal design calendar. You're mapping key milestones, design, sourcing, prototyping. Usually it's a 6 to 18 month process. So this is slow fashion. It's not fast fashion. You're not dropping collections every 3 months and getting deliveries every 3 months. That's just not, that's fast fashion. Hopefully you're not working in fast fashion. And so those are some of the key things in this phase of product development. And next week I will talk about the other sections in the other steps in phase 4, prototyping, testing, and looking at tech packs and things like that. So that will be for next week. And then we'll be very quickly moving on to phase 5, which is go to market. So I would love to see your homework. I would love to hear from you, how it's going, and where I can help along the way. And so thank you for joining today, and go follow your creative passion and vision. I know the industry is tough, very competitive, but I still feel like we're all creative beings, and we all have a place and a space to do the work that we love. So I encourage you to keep going, and whether it's a side hustle or you're working full time within this field, thinking about your values, getting you to a place where you're really creating a product that you feel strong about and that you feel good about, and that it's bringing value and purpose to the world. And as a creative person and designer myself, I know we're consuming less, hopefully trying to consume less, trying to design less, trying to make less inventory in the world. But I still believe that if you have an idea and you have a passion for, making product and creating something, go for it. Go for it. You know, whether it's a side gig or you want it as you're an entrepreneur, let's work together, and I'm here to support. And I've been through many ups and downs in the industry, both as a business owner, a design consultant, having my own collection, and working corporately and working in mass market. I've done pretty much all of them, and there's a lot of experience and wisdom of the years that I have done this, but I'm also learning alongside with you. So I'd love to hear from you what's happening in your world and what you're learning, and how we can share our learnings and work together to create conscious product and for success. So I wish you a good day. Love you, friend. Thank you for being here and being a conscious fashion person. And I will catch you on the next one. Message me if you have any questions. All right, be well.